My friends, welcome to the Following Jesus channel. Today we will talk about the inspiring and transformative story of John, a journey of overcoming and rebirth that will surely touch your heart. It was an ordinary day for John, or at least it should have been top. The alarm clock rang at 7 in the morning, but he had been awake for hours, staring at the ceiling, still tired. Getting out of bed was a monumental task for him, as if there, in the comfort of his blankets, was the only place that offered him a respite from the storm he was facing within. John was a 28-year-old young man in the prime of his adult life. He had friends, a good job, and a loving family, but something inside him seemed to have broken. He couldn't explain to others, or even to himself, the reason for that constant sadness, that overwhelming sense of emptiness. Depression was a shadow that followed him, whispering words of discouragement and making even the simplest activities unbearable. At work, he no longer had the same brilliance. It was common for his colleagues to ask if he was okay, and John would respond with a forced smile and an "I'm just a bit tired." But the truth was, he had not been okay for a long time. Each day was a silent battle, and each smile a mask to hide the pain he felt. Nights were long and lonely. John would often stay up late, aimlessly browsing the internet or simply staring into the void. He felt disconnected from the people around him, as if he were trapped in a bubble that isolated him from the outside world. Sometimes he cried for no apparent reason. Other times he just remained in a state of complete apathy. John knew he needed help, but he felt ashamed to admit it. He feared the judgment of others and the possibility of being seen as weak. So he kept moving forward, day after day, fighting a battle that no one else seemed to see, silently hoping that somehow things would get better. But deep down, he knew that he could only start this journey of overcoming by accepting his reality and seeking the support he so desperately needed. Amid this whirlwind of emotions and thoughts, John began to realize that the situation could no longer continue as it was. The symptoms he had been ignoring for so long were now undeniable, and the need to understand the depth of his depression was becoming increasingly urgent. When confronted with stories of other people who had gone through similar situations, John began to see the gravity of his own suffering. The awareness that depression was not simply nonsense or lack of willpower made him reflect on the importance of seeking professional help and not underestimating the illness that plagued him. He spent sleepless nights researching the symptoms and impacts of depression, trying to find answers to his own anguish. As he delved deeper into this complex universe of mental health, he began to understand that overcoming would not come solely from willpower, but from a process of self-knowledge and acceptance of his vulnerabilities. With courage and determination, John took the first step toward transformation. He accepted that he needed help, that he could no longer fight this battle alone. The journey of understanding his depression was just beginning, and he knew that, despite the challenges still to come, the search for the light at the end of the tunnel would be worth it. With the support of a psychologist, John began to explore the universe of his deepest feelings. In each session, he discovered new layers of his own story, of his pains and traumas that he had kept hidden for so long. Therapy became a safe space where he could be vulnerable, without fear of judgment. And this made all the difference in his journey of self-healing. By sharing his anxieties and fears, John realized that he was not alone. Other people were also facing similar challenges, and hearing the stories of each patient's overcoming brought him a new perspective of hope. The different strategies and approaches used by each person inspired him to find his own path toward healing. Gradually, John began to implement self-care practices into his routine. Outdoor walks, moments of meditation, reading inspiring books, small gestures that together made a big difference in his mental health. Learning to identify emotional triggers and adopting a more compassionate view of himself became an essential part of his transformation process. Overcoming depression was not an easy path, full of ups and downs, advances and setbacks. But John knew that each step taken toward his own healing was a victory. With the support of therapy, self-care, and his support network, he saw himself slowly emerging from the darkness and discovering the light and hope that had always been within him. And so, The journey of overcoming depression became not only a personal battle, but a beautiful story of transformation and resilience. As the months passed, John began to notice significant changes in his life. Mornings, once so difficult to face, now brought a breath of hope. He resumed his hobbies, rediscovered joy in small things, and reconnected with friends and family in a way he never thought possible. One of the biggest changes was the construction of a solid support network. John began to open up more to the people around him, sharing his struggles and victories. He found unconditional support in friends and family, who in turn felt closer and more understanding seeing his vulnerability. These deep connections became an important pillar in his recovery. Additionally, John got involved in support groups, where he met other people on journeys similar to his own. The meetings provided a space for exchanging experiences and life lessons, promoting a sense of community and mutual understanding. He felt less isolated, knowing that there were others who truly understood what he was going through. Self-care also remained a constant practice in his life. John continued to set aside time for himself, prioritizing activities that nourished his soul and mind. Yoga, writing, music, and even short trips to peaceful places became part of his wellness repertoire. John knew that depression was a part of his story, but it would not define who he was. The journey of overcoming taught him to value every small achievement and to accept that life is made of ups and downs. With a new perspective and valuable tools acquired along the way, he felt more prepared to face future challenges. Most importantly, he knew he would never truly be alone, as he had found within himself and the people around him the strength needed to keep moving forward. John's story is a powerful reflection on human resilience and the importance of self-care and social support in overcoming emotional challenges. It reminds us that depression can be a difficult battle, but it does not have to be fought alone. Seeking professional help, being willing to be vulnerable, and building meaningful connections with others can be crucial for the healing process. Additionally, small self-care practices and valuing daily small victories can offer a new perspective and renew hope. John's journey shows us that, even in the darkest moments, there is always a path back to the light, and every step toward recovery deserves to be celebrated. You have already taken the first step by seeking inspiring stories like John's. Imagine what you can discover if you stay with us. Subscribe to the channel now and become part of a community of support and transformation. Your journey to a more balanced and happy life begins here.